Well, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are and when you're watching this. For me, it is 5 minutes after noon on Saturday, October 16th, 2021. Why 5 minutes after noon? Very simple. I was in the shower a little bit late. Normally, I like to get out here 5 minutes before noon and then start the stream so there's a little bit of a countdown, and totally missed that. So, starting 5 minutes late because, Anyway, here we are. Didn't stream last week. I had chores around the house, basically. I had to finish up my my power washing. So we're back at it today. What are we going to be working on today? The answer is I honestly don't know. But the first thing we're going to do is we are going to take a look at discussions, issues, and PRs and sort of see where we are. Discussion-wise, there's a couple things here that I have looked at previously that I did not answer. I kind of want to look at them again just to get a feeling for why I didn't answer them, and maybe I can get an answer now. Because, August is, they've been waiting 2 months for answers to this, so I don't know, maybe we'll do some of this stuff. Because my recollection was that both of these at least required me to do some coding to sort of figure out what is going on and what the right answer is. So maybe we'll do that today. I don't know. We'll take a look at them all. All right. So how to perform integration testing from MVC. I have an MVC app and a web API. The web API is tested using XUnit. Now I want to test the MVC app, which has controllers and a helper class to call the API. Startup class of MVC is as follows. Controller constructor is below. Logger, base API. Okay, base API constructor is as follows. HTTP client factory, sure, not all that surprising. Method to call is below. Get all async string API endpoint. Tried several options, but nothing works. Hope some of you experts can help. Well, maybe the reason I didn't answer this is because I don't know how. I thought this, hovering over this, would tell me who has voted this way. Or, what is that, actually? If I click that, what happens? It's an upvote. Apparently there are upvotes? Did not know that. All right. Sorry for momentarily upvoting your thing, JP Thomas 74, and then taking it away. Okay, so maybe we can figure out what's going on here, trying to put together a little repro later. And if I can't, then I'll just ask for a repro. All right, delayed constraints to polling. Hopefully this is the right place to ask Paul. Started to work on a new project, uses XUnit for unit testing, find there are a few features really missed from NUnit. Main one is delayed constraints, such as assert that constraint, blah, after 3 seconds, poll every 250 milliseconds. Really useful in testing some functionality, and we have no way to tell execution has finished. Generally for integration or component testing. Is there any plan to implement this, or is it omission by design? I.e., is there a reason XUnit devs do not do this type of thing? I was surprised by its absence, which means I have to write my own code for various scenarios, generally a loop sleep type thing, in order to achieve the same thing. Having this in XUnit would save me whole minutes of my life. Well, everybody deserves to have minutes saved. I think the answer to this is we should just convert this into an issue. Is probably the answer to this. Or we'll ask RiddleWare to do that. Sorry for the delayed response. I'm not averse to having something like this in the base framework. I don't know what exact shape the API might take, since we don't have fluent APIs. Please open an issue, and I'll put it on the back. That's my answer to that one. It's interesting that there's an upvote system even though there's these. They must be treated specially with upvotes. Upvotes must be treated specially. I work at GitHub. You'd think I know the answer to these questions, but I don't work on this, so that happens. All right, triggering custom test failed events in message bus and custom XUnit test method runner. All right. Yeah, so the reason I think I didn't bother to look at this before was that this is changing in V3, and this is probably related to V2. Yeah, so I'll leave that open. I'll come back to that another time. All right, so these are the actual new ones. iTest output helper for collection fixture. Would it be possible to provide an instance of iTest output helper to collection fixtures? I want to write output to test runner's UI. It's not possible using message sync. Given the existing design, it isn't possible. Well, it would be possible because iTest output helper is scoped to the execution of a single test. Writing diagnostic messages to the diagnostic message sync does show in most runners if you have enabled viewing diagnostic messages. This is turned off by default. Let's get a link to this. All right, so then we go to configuration files, and we say diagnostic messages. That is my answer. We'll see how Moo88 thinks of that. COM interrupt DLL, SOLIDWORKS add-in, hosting a test runner. I want to use XUnit to run integration tests for my Net5 Windows SOLIDWORKS add-in by calling the test runner from a separate testing add-in. I can't get discovery to work when called from a SOLIDWORKS add-in, COM interrupt DLL in .NET 5. Works fine in .NET Framework add-in or from a .NET 5 console add. First, when I add a package reference to Microsoft.net.test.stk.comhost.dll is excluded from build output even though true is set. So I have to copy comhost.dll from the output of a previous build. Second, when I try and discover and execute tests from a console application, works fine. When I try and execute it from my add-in, I can see that my DLL is being loaded but zero tests are discovered. I'm stumped. XUnit works for test discovery but does not have XUnit's robust support for custom test runners. Simplest test runner code I can come up with. So using assembly runner. Okay. Console app working. I don't see any errors here. So one of the things that's probably happening here is I'm curious. I've managed to create a self-contained solution reproducing issue without SOLIDWORKS. The gist of this is very simple. I can add a project reference to my DLL and successfully execute it from the console app by directly calling my method. Unfortunately, calling the same method via COM does not work. I'm stoked to find any meaningful direction in which to flail. Any and all advice is welcome. I've added XUnit projects to my solution so I can use a debugger to step through without the exception. This exception is thrown when I use COM version, but not. I'm able to cast object of type XUnit SDK reflection assembly info to an XUnit abstractions iAssembly info. Well, that's interesting. I know what's wrong, but not how to fix it. XUnit runner utility does not have a reference to XUnit execution. I don't understand why this works in normal workflow, but adding an XUnit execution reference to the XUnit runner utility project makes it work when calling from COM interrupt as well. There isn't a reference because runner utility does not link against any specific version of XUnit.net or libraries. It's intended to support any and all builds of Xtreme.net v1x and v2x. Although in practice, I'm not going to bother with that. What's likely happening here is that activation via COM is not correctly setting up test environment. It's very likely we will never be able to make this. We will not be able to make this work. We have never officially supported. This is, well, what is the right way to say this? Not a supported scenario, unfortunately. Fix does not work all the time. I clearly have no idea what I'm doing, and a lot of assumptions I made were incorrect. This project actually kind of demonstrates the problem in a relatively clean and simple way in case anyone has more traps in knowledge. I'll take a quick look and see if I can find an easy workaround. There may not be one. All right, I'll leave that open so we can take a look. All right, so that's all for discussions. Let's talk about issues. Wrong flow ID. All right, let's start with, basically, let's start here with anything that doesn't have tags. I have looked at some of these. In particular, like the ones that were opened by Eric St. James, I've probably looked at and maybe responded to because these are ones from the .NET team. And so they send me lists of stuff. All right, TeamCity uses the wrong flow ID. Some people reported my project that a test collection messages are shown outside the intended block. I can confirm, but it never got too important. However, a large amount of tests, okay. Checking the flow ID in TeamCity reporter message handler is the reason. To my knowledge, it is random. A better way would be to set it from the environment variable TeamCity process flow ID. I'm not 100% sure that this existed. When we did the original TeamCity integration. But apparently I looked at this before and looked at the NUnit version where they also had to go fix this. Constant field values. So this came about in, appears like TeamCity 8.0, which is definitely much newer than what we had originally been written against. Given that these are articles from 2016 talking about TeamCity 8.x, and where are you, TeamCity, in terms of versions right now? Yeah, that's not really what I wanted. Okay, well, you changed your versioning strategy, so I really don't know what that means, but you're not on 8.x anymore, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. It's a very common complaint I'm hearing in all the teams I work with. Me also. Okay, so potentially suppress TeamCity messages by excluding the TeamCity project name environment variable from spawn process. I'm thinking about doing this for the .NET runner. All right, so labels. We will put this as porters/runner utility because that's where it is. Good first issue, help wanted, target 2x and 3.0. And we'll call this, I guess we'll call this a bug. Sure. Somebody wants to do that, they should feel free to do that. In fact, we might find a PR for this. We'll see. All right, assembly rendering task completion source through a dispose exception. Assembly runner without app to manage this problem. If I use task completion starts instead of a manual reset event to wait for the runner to be finished, it fails with the exception. Assembly runner dispose. Attached an example repro. Okay. After we're done looking at the ones that we can just answer, I'll come back to this one and we'll see what's going on. Okay, this is one that I have already looked at, and this is fine. Analyzers, and we'll call this a bug. Yeah, so what's going on here is the XUnit 2000 analyzer looks at this instance of new string and decides that that's not a constant. And then it looks at this and says this is a constant. Obviously, you have these things reversed. Constants belong on the left side with expected. But the reality is that this is constant versus constant, which XUnit 2000 does understand. If you have two constants, then it basically says, okay, well then you know what you're doing. But it doesn't realize that this is a constant, which is fine. So I'm okay with that being fixed. 2002 flags a literal int that's being cast to reference type as not nullable. I also looked at this one. So this is testing, some conversion operator that is not working correctly. For whatever reason, we're looking at the actual constant value here and ignoring all of the casts. And that's clearly wrong, because you can box this through nullable int, essentially, right? And then, excuse me, excuse me, and then get then a cast to a nullable reference type. And presumably that is supposed to work, and what's failing here is that they actually have a bug, and then XUnit 2002 gets flagged. So yeah, analyzers, help wanted, bug. Good. Include flow ID and parse service messages inside in test standard out message to Team City. Running XUnit test, we found that the output was not being grouped in the test. This appears because test standard is missing the flow ID. This is probably a dupe. Right? Where was that other one? Team City. Suspect this is a dupe of that. So I'm going to mark this as a dupe. Okay, type inference gets confused when one parameter is null. Consider the following code. Empty of T, T1, T1, empty of T2, T2, default empty of int. If you run this, two of the cases will pass and one will fail due to incorrectly determining the type parameter in the third case. Feels like when it encounters a null, it gives up working the rest of the type parameters out and just hopes object will be okay. Encountered on 241. Yeah, well, we'll try and repro this, and if it's reproable, then we'll mark it as a bug for someone to fix. Right. Parameter enumeration is continue before running tests. I am generally generating disposable parameters for a test, but they are disposed before the test is run. Simply because it first generates all parameters and only then runs the test. I would prefer to enumerate parameters properly instead of trying to store them all in memory at first. Take one, run one approach would support disposability. Okay. You should disable theory pre-enumeration to get the behavior you want. Back over to xunit.net. Back over pre-enumerate theories. right? That's this one. By disabling this, we will no longer see individual theory data rows in Test Explorer in Visual Studio, since generating that list requires re-enumerating the theory data. I'll just put that as a new paragraph so that it's a little bit more clear. This isn't really an issue per se. This is just somebody who's not particularly unhappy with the way the design works. So I'll mark that as by design. Moving on. Okay, this is one that I already looked at. Assert equal float 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 introduces a breaking source change. The question was, they were using basically they were using float float float, expecting it to call, let's see. Oh no, they were calling float float int, which until we added float float float, there were no float versions of assertions. That's a lot of English. Let's we need this anyway. So let's go ahead and make sure I have latest. Let me switch to dev. Let me do git k and make sure dev and main are in the same place. They are. Okay, good. Let's open this up in Visual Studio. Git changes? No. Properties. Why are you not hidden? That's weird. I installed the new version of VS 2022 RC, which is different from the preview, so I will probably be grumbling about things that I need to tweak in my environment. So just fair warning. So actually this is an assert, right? So if I go to equality asserts, right, and I go look for float, float, float. Right, this is brand new. And this is the only float-based assert. So what we had before was decimal, decimal, int precision. Sorry, double, not decimal. Double, double, int precision. That's what we had in 2.x. 241 is what I should say, because I just added all these asserts into 242. What we've added in 242 is double, double, int with midpoint rounding, but more importantly, double, double, double with a tolerance instead of a precision. People found tolerance is better. And I agree, tolerance is better. So when we added float, float, float as the equivalent to double, 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 what ended up happening is now their float, float, int, which they previously were getting silently called double, double, int on, now has a problem that the compiler doesn't know whether they really wanted float, float, float or double, double, int, since neither one is a perfect match. It's just that previously the one imperfect match was just one match. So there you go. So what we need is a float, float, int version. That's essentially what they're asking for. And I agree that is something we should do. So this is assertion library. This is help wanted 2x30 feature. Yeah, we'll call it a feature, even though it sort of manifests as a bug. Because, yeah, it is. I mean, the break was not intentional, but the lack of an extra API feels like a feature to me. All right, anyway, assert throws, blah, param name null. It now fails in 242 because in the nullable pass, I went through and added, I made param name in assert throws non-nullable. And the reality is that argument exception can accept a null parameter. So that is absolutely something we should fix. This is just a straight up bug. So help wanted. 2, 3, and this is a bug. So there you go. Cert equal t, I enumerable enumerates multiple times. Yeah, so when we added enumerable support where we were showing, what we were showing was, like this was introduced to be able to show the mismatched index. So we get an output that looks a lot like the string output in that we only show you part of the enumerable. We show you the part of the enumerable exactly where you failed with arrows that point at that exact item. And that's basically what we do. And so this feature that introduced double enumeration. It introduced it in a few places. The one that gets highlighted here is that we have to enumerate here for the equals check. And if they fail, we'll come back to that in a minute. But if it succeeds, then it comes down here and it does this compare equals, which runs it again. So the first point was we should just check for AC not equal to null, and then basically say, hey, if you're equal, you're done. That's your check, right? We shouldn't have fallen through here. We should have a return. However, that said, this equal exception from enumerable with an enumerable, but even without an enumerable, even the regular equal exception without a mismatched index, I think both of those end up going through argument formatter, and argument formatter is going to format that thing by enumerating it. So we definitely have double enumeration, not just from here to here, but also from here to here or from here to here. All right, so we definitely have that. So yeah, so I point that out here that we have two scenarios where this and where this can happen. So yes, we should definitely fix this. Double enumerations are bad. So we'll put help wanted. This is a bug on the insertion library. And moving on. How to perform integration. Okay, so we're back there again. That's fine. All right, so that's it should be it for issues, right? Everybody's got labels now. There's a couple here that I must have missed these. I think I started here. Some of these, like I don't want to spend all day on this, but let me look at a couple more. Like if everything on the first page, other than the V3 roadmap, has a label, then I feel better about it. Those are the things people care about most. Why? Because sort by updated descending, that resurfaces things when anybody touches an issue. Subject runner task completion sorts through a dispose exception. Oh, yeah, we already looked at that one. And type inference as well. Both of those were two that we wanted to come back to. All right, iAssembly fixture should be part of XUnit. Assembly level fixtures should be included officially in XUnit. In order to implement this behavior outside XUnit test assembly runner, then injects custom test assembly runner. So this is already on the V3 roadmap. It just needs labels. Core framework feature target 3.0 feature. Okay, you just need some labels. Feature request run tests in parallel with shared context. This is already on the roadmap as well. So these are just getting serviced because people are mentioning them, so they just need labels. So this is core framework target 3.0 feature. Test logs get mixed across test cases. Let's see. This is actually relatively new. .NET Test and Test Explorer and VS both collect messages logged by tests to the wrong tests. I'm using iTest Output Helper to log messages, yet these messages which are meant to be collected under standard output on a per test basis are getting mixed up, which makes analyzing test failures very difficult or impossible. It seems to depend on logging taking place after the test class's dispose async method completes. So test 1 is actually logging after it is allegedly finished, thus overlapping with test 2's time slice. That said, since concurrent test execution is supported, it seems like logging is already distinguishable, so why do the logs get mixed up? And the answer is, I really don't know why the logs are getting mixed up. I don't. Tested product may have async shutdown behavior that tests it, but the test dispose async method cannot wait on, which is why logging happens in dispose async, but I would like to capture such logs. I mean, in general, this should work, right? iTest output helper should be valid for the entire lifetime of the test, which includes the lifetime of the test class instance. Timex unit runner, Visual Studio library hands off to the VSTest platform within test result. The corruption has already occurred. Steps to reproduce. Each message is prefixed with a unique ID, expected behavior, actual behavior. See some logs. Okay, so what'll be interesting to me on this one, we're just gonna go ahead and label this as a bug. This is a core framework bug. It'll be interesting to me to understand where exactly this bug is and whether it's still in v3. Because test output helper stuff has changed a lot in v3. But for another day. Assembly runner task completion source throw dispose. Yeah, we were already here, right? This is back to where we were. Okay, good. So that now means that everything here, other than the two I'm going to look at, type inference, assembly runner, everything else has a label, except for v3 roadmap. Okay, good. What's up next? These are the PRs for XUnit. Let's see. So these ones from a while ago, obviously I've already looked at these. Include flow ID and parse service message and standard out. What about DevSecOps? This one I'm going to just close. We're not interested in this time. All right, so this one, include flow ID and parse service message for standard out. As expected, I think this is going to be related to 2385, maybe. As well as, obviously, it's directly related to 2397. When running tests in parallel, we faced two issues. The output didn't seem to match the test in TeamCity. We were unable to include extra service messages. All right, so what's the fix? So the fix is a missing flow ID for output. Well, that just seems like an outright bug. And then this, I have no idea what this TC tags is. I assume this is, you know, a reasonable thing. But what I want to actually, so I'm going to go ahead and say this is not a dupe. This is just, let's see, let's go with reporters, bug. It's definitely a reporters bug. Okay. But just as importantly, we want to port this over to v3 as well. I see no problem with this. This toFlow ID should be, so this is the flow. So the test collection is what generates the flow ID. Okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We'll go ahead and improve and run the workflows. I would like to see a unit test here. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised that this doesn't fail a unit test. I guess we'll find out, won't we? All right, so the PR build is running for this now. While that's running, I'm going to go duplicate this into V3. All right, so let's go do that. Let's go find our Team City reporter message handler. And let's find our output. This is in, I'm going to assume. Oh, the flow ID has changed to be based on the test collection unique ID, which is fine. Handle test, there's going to be like a log finish. There we go. There's the output. Ah, so we have a flow ID in here already. So what we're missing then is TC tags. All right, so that goes here. Parse service message inside. Okay. So we'll find out whether this breaks any of our tests. I'm really surprised that this wouldn't break a test. What it means is we don't have a test of this output handler if that's the case. Oh, we're just getting started with the build here. Yeah, there you go. This is, you know, what I expected. And I'll be shocked that if, you know, they don't have the same problem. All right, so Team City Reporter Message Handler test. Team City Reporter Message Handler tests. Input. That was one of them, right? On message test failed. On message test passed is the other. On message test passed. There's our TC tags. And what's going on over here? Yes, my desktop PC is faster than the build VM. Of course it is. These things are like 1 or 2 slow cores. All right, we just started running tests. I would expect a failure in test XUnit runner utility. How about us? How are we doing? Got all the way through V3, and we're on 32-bit. So we appear to be in good shape here. And now we're building our packages. Suppose I could have just run build test. Okay, pretty simple, right? Add TC tags to Team City output handling per, what are you? What is your issue number? 2397. Yeah, that's fine. Push on dev. And main. Should all be fine. Okay. Yeah, this failed. That's what I expected. Because, you know, you broke a unit test, bro. Same two tests, right? I test failed and I test passed. TeamCity reporter message handler tests. All right. Make sure we're up to date here. Wait, what? Why did V2 get deleted? Oh, that's a cert. CertX unit deleted V2. Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. So we need to fix this before we can accept it. They did not allow me to do this. So, yeah. PR branch is not open for me to make that change. Please fix the broken tests. As far as unit test changes. Is there a way for me to... Yeah. Oh, why did I do that? It's fine. I have ported the, what was it called? TC tags. Oops. And then that was this. Yep. Okay. Can't merge it. Can't merge it. Don't need you anymore. So from a PR's perspective, I think that's good. Everything else here is old. Which means I should come through and clean these out someday soon. And this will start distinct in the CertX unit. Not today. I have the ability to view code. Okay, most of these are old. Yep, okay, so nothing to do there. All right. Assembly runner dispose throws. Why would assembly runner dispose throw? See if we can find an obvious answer to this question. Assembly runner. Can it dispose the assembly runner when it's not idle? Well, this certainly seems like the likely candidate, doesn't it? And this is supposedly the repro. Copy link. Okay. Let's go to repro. Let's go get that, please. Okay. Console Up49 is a folder. Fine. .NET build. You are net50 .NET test. So that part at least works. If I go into console Up49, bin debug, net50. We have test host exe. Can I use the file stream for test host deps.json? No such file in directory. Okay. Oh, we're not supposed to be running test host, we're supposed to be running console Up49. Yeah, can I dispose the assembly runner when it's not idle? Exception message is the message indicates the problem. You need to wait for the assembly runner to become idle. And that is, what is the name of that property? This is v3. Let's get to v2. That property is called status. Using the .status property before you can dispose of anything. Before you can dispose of anything. So I'm going to call this, not a bug. It's by design. Okay. Easy enough, right? And you can go away zip file. Back to the browser. Okay. Type inference gets confused and one parameter is null. Okay. This is 2041. New X unit. .NET new SLN. .NET SLN add. Okay. Just throw this in here. Right, theory, you're missing using XUnit. Oh, that's because he's got nullables enabled. That. That should be fine. Okay. IEnumerable, missing using. Okay. We'll take 16 star. We'll take 242 star. 243 is fine. I don't care about correlate collector. .NET. Actually, just .NET test should be enough, right? Should restore and build for me. Object of blah cannot be converted to blah. It's an empty of object. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? And the test is data is always we always have a default of empty of int. Which should have a type, because it's a struct. That definitely looks like a bug. So now the next question is it still a bug in 3? At which point I don't need you or you. What I want is xunit v3 010 star .NET restore .NET build .NET run. Yep, still a problem in v3. Okay, you're like literally a legitimate bug. So there you go. Labels. This is core framework. Help wanted. 2x and 3 and a bug. How to perform integration tests from MVC. Right, we said we were going to come back to this. Those are all things I'm going to come back to. Okay, I think I'm done with that. All right, let's refresh our roadmap. What are some things we should work on today? Let's see. Create new super type for fact attribute. Assembly fixture should be part of XUnit. Test case parallelization where there's no class collection fixture. Feature request run tests in parallel with shared context. Enable controlled randomness. Basically just means providing a seed, printing a seed, and then being allowed to provide it. Add extensibility point for custom argument formatting. Full comparison values in equal output. Equal result unclear. String with differing trailing spaces. Standardize all assert exception argument formatting. Equal crashes of the Stack Overflow. Like string assertions disable partial display, which is very similar to that, except for strings. Output for assert equal for collections of mismatched sizes. Underrun. Add support for async enumerable element assertion. Add runner support for v3. Yeah, that's. I'm kind of curious where I stand on that. Let's hop into that, and actually let me close this Visual Studio and this VS Code. and then reopen Visual Studio. You can go away, 2041. Actually, just the console window can go away. Come over here. Make sure our change is saved. Okay. Let's see. So, what I want to do is, let's rerun this gitk with all. All right, how far down is v3 TCP runner? That's where we are, huh? So it looks like we're only about 6 commits behind because we're on the green line. Nothing else on the green line. Okay, let's go get ourselves up to date. Let's switch to v3 TCP runner. Let's rebase ourselves against main. See where we are. That's better than I thought it would be. Also, I love this. 22 clock seconds become actual, well, 22 run seconds becomes 9 clock seconds. That's a pretty big improvement. Being able to run things in parallel. Again, let's go ahead and warm up Ubuntu. Because I think this stuff is broken in Ubuntu. I don't know that I'm ready to start dealing with that at the moment, but alright, so we got NuGet packages here, so that's good. So go ahead and push. Let's go to XUnit. XUnit. Let's go to v3 TCP runner. Pull. Yes. I'll need to run the v3 tests. That was weird. Why'd the screen clear? Right? That was weird. Alright. Yeah, we definitely have a socket failure still here that needs to be fixed. But at least it did rebase, no problem. It's good. That's a bunch of stuff running .NET. Let's see. pskill .NET? pkill maybe. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that'll just shut itself down. Okay. I don't think I actually want to work on v3 runner utility today, but at least it's up to date now. Jenkins fails, support TRX, multi-line skip messages, test filtering, transforms multi-line skip messages by converting the new lines. Whoops, I should middle click you. Currently, XUnit runners transform multi-line skip messages by converting the new line characters to literal \n character before printing them. It's probably an issue for people who use skip parameters on fact attribute, but for those of us that utilize dynamic skip messages, often contain multi-line details. Runner output formatting is counterproductive. It'd be nice if the runners didn't reformat the new lines. Yeah, let's see how hard this is. That's an excellent question. Okay, so fact attribute obviously doesn't have anything in it. For this, literally just allows you to set a skip message. Run this. I have no data. Skip me. Because we don't even have any tests that I can see that actually do this. What exactly would this look like? All right, based on your solution, you might need to install extra components. What is it you think I need? Oh. Okay, whatever. Let's do core tests. Let's go throw. This is an interesting question. In exactly what context does this happen? Unit runners transform multi-line skip messages by converting a new line character into the literal /n characters. Okay. Whatever. I just want to put this somewhere so that it gets run. Fact. Skip. This is multi-line skip. Public void do not run. Okay. So let's go ahead and run these async acceptance tests. Let's build. I said I had some tweaking to do. I wasn't kidding. That's fine too. Okay. Unit v3 runner console bin debug net 472 run you against source x unit v3 core tests bin debug net 472 x unit v3 core tests allow. Yeah. Oh no, you're an exit. Hello. Wow. Seriously, take a week off, and here's what happens. Say multi-line skip message. So where is that conversion happening? Well, the first place to look would be the default runner reporter, message handler, skip. We escape the display name with skip, and then we escape the reason. It's interesting. The only things we're really... All right, so what if we didn't escape the reason? Oops. What if we just output the reason? That's probably not what we want. but I'm curious to see what it looks like. And I think when we see what it looks like, that'll be the indication as to what we want. So if we replace environment.newline with n, and then we replace n with n and 6 spaces. We get this. And what about tabs? Build first. Coincidentally, it looks exactly like a space. I mean, that's how tab stops work. Coincidences happen. What actually happens if we have this 0 in here? So that's one of our escapes, right? I mean, obviously that got added at some point for some reason. So let's do this. Let's say we say escape multi-line indent. All right. Which that obviously doesn't exist yet. Escapes multi-line text for display purposes, indenting on new lines. So I think what we want to do is let's do this. Turn text. I want to replace, actually let's do it like this. We're going to replace rn with n. We're going to replace r with n. Then we're going to replace n with environment.newline and then the indent. Escape multi-line indent. That's what we decided we were going to call this, right? The indent to use for multiple line text. And then we'll go ahead and we'll continue to do this replace 0 with 0. What about tabs? So there's our R's and our N's. I guess we'll just leave the tabs. Like, you want this to not be too crazy. I want to make this wider. There's definitely a way to make that wider, right? Tabs and windows. There we go. Maximum tab width. Let's try 300. It's a little bit better. Okay. That's built. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. So where are all the places we escape? We escape the exception type. That doesn't need to be multi-line. The display name for a test. Probably shouldn't be multi-line. That's a tough call. Display name, display name. Display name, display name. Yeah, I'm going to leave those as is. We should see... Oh, I'm in the wrong branch anyway. Back to main, please. We should see some failing tests here, I would assume. Actually... I don't know if that's going to get in there fast enough or not. It's okay if it doesn't. Right. On message test skipped. This is my skip reason. Cross multiple lines. So the tab is still there, the space is still there. This now becomes environment.newline. And then cross multiple lines. Let's turn this into a theory. We want to support all three forms of newline. Skip newline. Right. That's your skip newline. Anyway, look at it, that's how it should work. Run our common tests. Run our common tests. Yeah, it would help if I spelled it correctly. All right. Go again. Better. That's weird. I swear I changed that. Explain to me how you still got in there. Try again. Rebuild, everybody. Aww. I made you sad. Didn't mean to make you sad. Okay. Feel like this is a pretty good solution to this. 1832. 1832. Push. Closed. Yep, it's all good. Okay. We have to check another one off our list. How exciting. Okay, what's next? Setting all parameters via properties in MS Build Target. Currently is listed as a by design, but 5 properties that are all expressed as MS Build I task item rather than string because we pull full path names from a task item. For a change from item to property, then I would lose the full path computation which MS Build is on, so I don't think this should be changed. That is what I said in July, which was certainly in context of V3 everything. Yep. I think I'm just going to close this. But I'm also going to remove it from this list. Where were you? This list here. So 1889 in runners. Because we didn't actually fix it. Okay. Use member data for methods with optional parameters. Bugs, small features. Generic type arguments are not encoded properly. Very specific overload contains for dictionary. Class data output does not get disposed if it implements disposable. Timeout parameter effect does not work with synchronous test code. That's an interesting one. I would like to ponder on this one a little bit too. Fact timeout not working in synchronous test code. How it works is the developer takes care to only use asynchronous. First, to start with some references, it seems this parameter is not actually officially documented. If we look at 1990 CY on docs comparison, does not let that timeout. It's not clear to me if this is formally a supported attribute or not. That's an excellent point. Nonetheless, compared to Indian, I suppose we could assert that the community is roughly in agreement that this functionality capability is necessary for reliable CI/M tests. So, let's talk about how this is implemented today. So if we look at timeout, right, the place where this gets used is in the test case. So the test case grabs timeout and puts it in the test case itself, right? So then where does this timeout get consumed? It's going to get consumed by one of the runners. Yeah, the invoker. So right now what we do is if you have a timeout, we invoke the timeout test method async. Otherwise, we just do the base. So the test method test invoker, I believe, is the base class, right? Or just test invoker. Okay. So what we do here is we invoke the test method async, and then we say a task when any on the base task with a task delay, and then say we throw a timeout exception if the task that came back first was the delayed task. So the problem with invoke test method async in the base is going to be that it isn't always async. Actually, it is always async. You have to do aggregator run async, which does timer aggregator async, which uses async. But something in here has to await in order for us. And that await only happens here when we actually have a value task. So the problem is this. Until this await happens, or this await happens asynchronously, which it probably rarely ever does, we never actually yield, and therefore we never actually get back to the point. Yeah. It could be literally just something as simple as this, which is to do await async task delay 0, right? The interesting question is, if I do an await delay 0, what will it actually do? So this is net standard. This is not actually the implementation. All right, where would the implementation of task delay be? It's probably not in any of these things, but all right, it's probably in MS Core Lib. Which wouldn't be here, right? I don't think it's like in system tasks, system threading tasks. Could go take a look in there though. Or 3. Lib, maybe. Net 45, nothing. Portable, nothing. So basically what you're saying is it comes in from elsewhere. Should be MS Core Lib. Let's do this then. Let's go to IOSpy. And let's see, open manage assembly lists. Okay, yeah, so that's fine. Open from the GAC. How do I open the an assembly list? Oh, you just double click it. Okay, good. Let's go look for delay. Task delay, int. Probably calls delay with milliseconds, sure. So if we give a 0, then we get a completed task. Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering about. Otherwise, we'll get a delay promise. So we really can't just do a delay 0. We need to do a delay 1. So timeout will work for non-async tests. So let's comment this out for a moment. All right, what I should be able to do is I should be able to go and this is going to be a core test anyway, right? Which is, well, I'm not 100% sure how I test this. Let's actually ask that question. How do I test this? So we have serializer tests. Well, that's not it. We have acceptance tests. Okay. So this does a task delay. It returns a task. This returns void. I don't know why that returns void. That should return a task. It's weird that it doesn't return a task. Let's also have a long-running non-async test, right? Long-running non-async test. You will be void, and you will be thread sleep. 10,000. We won't have one failed test, we'll have 2 failed tests. So failed messages is going to be assert, not, yeah. We'll do a 2 this time, yeah. All right, so I want 2 failed messages. Failed async is going to be let's match them up. Let's do this. Failed messages with metadata. And failed messages select. So given f, what I really want to return is, actually we can just return this as a tuple, that would be fine. We're going to say, failed messages f, and then the display name is this. Results of type test starting where ts blah 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 is going to be equal to failed message, test unique ID. Then we'll do an assert collection. Means I don't need this. I don't actually need this temporary either. That's fine. Failed messages is going to be is going to be this, that, with a select. 3D failed messages. We're going to order by display name. Right. Then we're going to say well, let's call this failures. Let's call this message. We'll call this a failure. And a failure. So we have long-running test, and then we have long-running non-async test. Failure display name. Failure message is single. What's wrong with display name? Ah, right. We need the display name. We need the actual display name here. Right. Okay. That should all be true. Display name. Okay, core tests. So this should fail because we don't have our line of code in there yet. And we have a 10-second delay while we realize that we're about to fail. And this is where our success should have been a single success, but we got 2 because the timer didn't work. All right, test invoker. How about now? Ta-da! Perfect. Kind of. We have an equal exception. That's weird. 4221. Class with async void. What did I do wrong? Class with async void. Result 42. Okay, well that's fine. Why did you get printed? You didn't actually. Oh no, you somehow failed. Okay, that's weird. Async void. Async value tasks run correctly. Await task from result 21. Why? Does this belong up here, maybe? It's so weird. Like, why are we just seeing a raw stack trace here? As opposed to a test failure. It's like it's trying to just run this code for no good reason. Run on sync context. Well, if anything in here throws, the aggregator should be catching it. But I don't understand why introducing a task delay 1 makes that other test suddenly fail. Because we end up down here with an await async sync context wait for completion. All right, so if I look at the stack trace and ignore everything that's not us, max concurrency sync context worker threads. This is running a test. Max concurrency sync context. This is still the worker thread. And then the max concurrency sync run on sync context. This is so weird. So this is .NET Framework, right? Yeah. What happens? Does this also fail in .NET Core? So bizarre. Run on sync context. So we don't have a value task, so we definitely end up in here. Which actually, the reality is we could put this code here. I think we can put this code here. Actually, no, because the call test method is the problem, right? That's our test method invoke. So it does actually have to be there. It's just bizarre. Why? Actually, while we're here, let's fix this. I'm sure this is just ridiculously small for you. All right, where's input? There's input. And then layout, 160 by 50, or 60 maybe? Probably shouldn't let the system position the window. Apparently 60 is too much. Okay, let's make sure that's still okay. Yeah, this is just Just strange. Run out of sync context. All right, so this is being called line 98. Okay. Set work ready to wake up other threads. Since there might still be work in the queue, sure. Execution context run, work.context, run on sync context, work.callback, work.state. No. Like lots of things are async void. Most of the tests inside XUnit itself are async void. What if I make this async void? Yeah, so it's not being async void that is fundamentally the problem. Something very particularly strange about this. Oh. Yeah, why? Why? I know that moving this down here is going to fail the other test. Because the problem is we just don't wait. But it doesn't fail the other test now. What I'd really like to know is so I have test method and it is a literal method info. Okay. Oops. That was a little bit too much. Let's, might be in a non-async test. And timeout requires asynchronous. Test method dot return type equal to type of void. But I feel like it's still going to end up with this other failure. We're just only doing the delay when necessary, which is probably better anyway. Run on sync context. I wonder if I move this into another method? Is this a problem of captured context being wrong? Go ahead. The async sync context we need. Wait for completion async, right? So async sync context. Nope, that does not fix it either. This is not an issue of captured sync context. See, this needs to be, well, actually, I mean, it doesn't, but it does. That's probably going to screw things up if I do that, isn't it? Yeah. So we can look for methods that are async. With an attribute. All right. v3.core tests bin debug net45net472. Core tests. So for example, if we go find invoke test method async on test invoker. Oh, those are the tests. We need to go find one of the tests. So that would be the acceptance tests. Yeah, there you go. End-to-end message acceptance of the acceptance tests. Let's go find one of the test methods. Single passing test. So we look for this async state machine. That's what it is. Async state machine. Timeout requires asynchronous. So introduce it for non-async tests. Timeout. So we do not have timeout here, do we? This would really be a case of wanting to know maybe this isn't the right place to do it. Like, let's go into XUnit Test Invoker. We only come in here when we know that we have a timeout. So if we were to do get custom attribute of async state machine attribute, right? Where do you live? You are System Runtime Compiler Services. Perfect. Timeout requires it, so introduce it for non-async tests. Might not even need to do this. All right, this may be enough. Oh. We don't have an async state machine attribute. Oh, yeah. Actually, that should be fine. Because even in these cases where... What are you doing up there, text editor? Nobody asked for you. Where did we add our test? This is like XUnit 3 acceptance tests. It is in here. Test. Where are you? Timed out tests. So you don't have async, none of these have async state machine on them, but that's okay. Because they'll just get an arbitrary 1 millisecond delay, even when you don't. So let's take that out. Let's take that out. Let's take these out. And let's take this out. So now we're just running the one test. Okay, so that one's still failing. So it feels like the await is in the wrong place. Yeah, so that one correctly triggered. But this one is still missing. Why? Why did it help up there but not down here? Oh, because this one, it does have to be there. Timeout true. Timeout false. Set to true when this is a test with a timeout. False otherwise. If there's a timeout and we have this, which means we need this, which is fine, which is fine. Actually, that is a terrible way to do this, isn't it? Take it back. Let's not bother with that. Still gonna be broken now? What? Wait, what? I don't understand how. All right. Just so I'm clear, this is literally the only test that's failing, or am I chasing a ghost? parenthesis in the wrong place. Oh. We kept running. Is that true in .NET Framework as well? Yep. So that test that's sitting back there is still running. Okay, you can come back. But answer me this. All right, you can come back. So it's the one that does thread sleep, but not the one that does task delay. All right, I really don't understand what's going on here. I feel like I want to talk to somebody who knows more about this stuff than I do. Because the fact that it runs 10 seconds in the background, I sort of get. I'd like to understand why one does and the other one doesn't, and my guess is because any tasks that are still running when the process wants to exit sometimes get cleaned up and sometimes don't. There's no way to just cancel a task. Cancellation tokens, but then that sort of requires you to thread all that stuff through, which we've never actually done before. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. This one is a puzzler. This one is a puzzler. All right, well, I'm going to leave this here and think about this. Yeah, I've been streaming for 2 hours. That's probably enough, I think, for the day. At least we got some stuff knocked out. This delay thing is a little bit curious. Like, I think if I were to think about this not as a task thing, but more as a thread thing, then I could kill the thread, but is killing threads actually a safe thing to do? I don't know. But if I were to run this on a thread instead of running it with a task, then we would sort of lose all of our context, which would be bad. All right. Anyway, thanks for hanging out today. Hopefully I'll figure this out or find somebody who can help me figure this out. I'll see you next time.